Thank you everyone for joining, people in this room and also on Zoom from all over. I'm going to talk about using ChatGPT and other generative AI tools for search marketing. I'm going to cover mostly SEO and a little bit pay-per-click as well. So here's the agenda. I'll give you a little bit intro about me, and then it'll be all about ChatGPT and how you can use it for search marketing. We'll talk about general tips, content creation, SEO analysis, things like images and video, and we're going to end on pay-per-click. So a little bit about me. I started a digital marketing company with my brother a little bit over a dozen years ago. We're now just under 400 employees, around 100 are in the US, and around 300 are worldwide. We do primarily SEO pay-per-click. Forbes ranks us as the #1 SEO company for small business. And we also do web development, but really our core is SEO pay-per-click. We also do social media and email marketing. And that's it about us. The rest is purely informational. So pretty crazy, ChatGPT, the rise of it. If you look at their speed to 100 million users, it is faster than even social media platforms, even faster than TikTok, right? Faster than TikTok, faster than Instagram, and it's not a social media platform, it's a productivity platform, yet so many people use it, right? So, why do they use it? First, we're going to start really, really simple. Maybe people in the room or people on Zoom. Does anyone actually know what GPT actually stands for? Okay. Nope. Anyone? Pretty crazy, right? Some people use it, you don't even know what it is. It doesn't have a good name, so maybe that's why. There it is. Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Yeah, kind of boring, right? Okay. Generative AI is getting smarter and smarter, and I think that's like a really big component into starting to use AI and embedding it in your systems. You're not even like using it for what it is today. You're using it for what it will be in the future. And that's why, especially enterprise, big organizations are investing so much in this because they see the potential, not what it does right now today, but what it does later. In this graph, it just like it shows you it was like GPT-3 versus GPT-4, and it took exams like the SATs. And all of a sudden you're going from like a 1200 like average SAT score to like 15 something, and this is just from one version difference, 3 to 4. All of a sudden you got like an average student to like valedictorian, and all of a sudden GPT-5 is going to come out soon, and it's going to be imagine the increase there. In so many aspects it really is like exponential. All right, general tips. Okay, generative AI is a tool for everyone. I thought this was the funniest thing when I stumbled upon this. This is a job ad, so I'm looking for a prompt engineer and librarian. Okay, and they're paying, willing to pay over 300 grand, right? So it's like, spending half your time like, doing decimal system, like stacking books, and the other half, I guess, helping people, write ChatGPT prompts or something, right? It really is funny, and it's absolutely the wrong approach. All right, it's kind of like I compare it to like, say if you have a company and you have like one Googler, right? So if anyone wants anything searched, you can go to that one person and they're going to run and they're going to search it for you because you're not smart enough to search Google yourself, right? And that's really, I think, how ChatGPT should be looked at. It's supposed to be a tool that everyone uses. It's not about like here's that one person who figured it out and everyone has to come to that person. Absolutely not. Again, very similar to searching on Google or whatnot. Okay, generative AI, it loves spreadsheets, it loves data. A lot of people use it very basic, right? They use it to just like talk, back and forth. They don't actually use it for data. They don't use it for files. They don't use it for spreadsheets. They don't use it for code. And really, the way I see it is like the spectrum of like usefulness for ChatGPT. Just like the standard chat back and forth function is like all the way to the left, right? It's like the basic. You're not getting that much out of it. If you want to be a little bit more advanced, then you're dealing with data, you're dealing with spreadsheets, right? Now, all of a sudden, you want to be really advanced, not really advanced, they make everything so basic, really. Then you have it help you write code. And in this example, maybe it's a little hard to see, it was a funny one. So we have reviews on our website, on our agency website, and we want to showcase the best reviews, right? But I have over 1,000 reviews, so how the heck do I read 1,000 reviews, right, and pick out the best ones? And not only is it just the best ones, there's certain criteria. I don't want the best ones that are like 1,000 words that no one's going to read, right? And I want to categorize them. I want reviews, for our web design services, for our marketing services. I want some reviews that talk about our value, other reviews that talk about how responsive we are, right? And it's like, how do I do that? There's over 1,000 reviews, right? How does a human do that? And if you think about it, without ChatGPT, it's like maybe hire an intern, and maybe for a couple of months they're literally reading these reviews and trying to like somehow tag them and remember them, to do this task. And even a couple of months, they're probably not going to do too well, and you can't really even like test how well they did without actually going through and doing the whole exercise yourself, right? ChatGPT did it amazing. I put ChatGPT, and the first thing it says running sentiment analysis. I never heard of a sentiment analysis, right, up to that point, and I was like, this is pretty freaking brilliant, right? All of a sudden, it's going through every single review and running this analysis to say, how positive is it, right? And it does that in mere seconds, right? It shows you the work, and it's just doing it. At the end, it pops up with results. And then I could go back and forth, give me 5 more. I don't like this one, make them shorter. I don't like when they reference a specific person rather than reference a company, right? Then all of a sudden, it gave me, what would take interns months and months to do, worse than what ChatGPT did in minutes. And that's, again, so much more than like, hey, write me like a paragraph of text or whatnot. This is where the value is. Okay, a lot of people, the way that they use ChatGPT is every time they use it, they start a brand new chat window, right? So all of a sudden, all the learning just totally disappears, right? And as agency, we work with a lot of different clients. So if every time I'm retraining ChatGPT of like, here's this client, here's your target audience, here's their business, etc. I'm going to spend more time retraining it every single time than actually, the usefulness of it. So ChatGPT definitely reuse, and I think it's the last iteration trying to get a little bit better, like helping you organize those chat windows. It still is not great, but what I like to do is you could actually go in and you could just get the link to any of your chat windows, and then what I do is then I have a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. Most of my day is inside spreadsheets, right? So I just get that link and I put it in a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet I could organize it any way I want. Right, share with team members, etc. So definitely do that versus restarting a chat window every single time. Okay, have a two-way conversation. A lot of people, I see ChatGPT, again, use it like search because you're probably used to it, right? Like you're used to using Google, and in Google you don't have a back and forth. Every single time you go to Google and you do a Google search, it is brand new. I mean, maybe you'll remember some things that you said, but it's not like, you can't build on top of it, right? All of a sudden, with ChatGPT, you actually could have a two-way conversation. So, for example, say I want to write an email to my clients and say, hey, I'm going to be in Nashville, I'll be talking at this Joomla convention, you guys should visit, right? So I could go to ChatGPT and I could, tell it that and ask it to write me an email. Or I could first ask it to say, hey, what questions do you need to know? What information should I put there to write this email? So I go there and I say, hey, I'm going to this convention about Joomla, it's going to be in Nashville. What information do you need to know to write a really good email to invite people to this? And they'll tell you. They'll say, hey, tell me the audience, tell me the dates, tell me this, tell me that. And if you don't do that, then all of a sudden, like, you just go with the one-way prompt to it, it's going to write you an email that, and many of the times, it gives you like random things, or it doesn't put in the date. Then all of a sudden, you're going to send this email, and you're going to forget to put the date that you're actually speaking. Right? But if you go to it and ask it first, hey, what information do you need to know? It'll tell you. So have that back and forth. Have that two-way conversation. Again, it's a little bit, I think, irregular for most, because most people are used to using Google, using search, where you don't have that two-way conversation. So you kind of have to retrain your brain a little bit. AI, speaking of which, AI loves to hallucinate, right? That's like right now the one biggest pitfall of AI, of generative AI. It literally just makes up stuff. And there's one, for example, one of our clients, or rather we have a bunch of clients in the automotive field, and when I was just like playing around with this, seeing like, hey, what's actually possible with this, I put in a wrong car make model. I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like a Honda Camry versus a Toyota Camry, right? Like I mix and match, like, they make the model. And instead of it telling me like, wait, this car doesn't exist, like I can't write about this, it literally wrote an article about this fictional car and everything. Had like the horsepower, apparently it's very reliable, right? It gave me all this information. It was complete BS. It was totally wrong. In this graphic right here, they tested different models, and they tested how often does it either A, give you the correct answer, B, hallucinate, like where it just confidently make up an answer, very confident it is in its lies, right? Or it says, I don't know. And then first that's stuff like the United States presidents, right, which is talked about a lot. There's a lot of information on it. So when it comes to United States presidents, it was very good at giving you the right answer, right? But if you go really niche, and all the way at the bottom was the really niche, it was Moroccan political leaders. There's not much online about Moroccan political leaders, and that's where it doesn't skip, which ChatGPT 4 does. It doesn't skip, it just makes stuff up. So the more niche you get, the more it will hallucinate. And for people using it for content creation, or using it to, I don't know, like instructions for something, it could be wrong. So it needs to be, rechecked, right? Especially when you go niche. If you have experience in like broad strokes and it seems to be pretty accurate, don't let that fool you. You go niche, that's when it makes stuff up confidently. Okay. Hide your data, right? If you are sensitive to this, there's a few stories out online. I think one was like these developers for Samsung, they used ChatGPT to help them write code, and to do that, they gave it code. They said, here's my code, help me debug it, and they worked off their own proprietary Samsung code with ChatGPT. Guess what? You go to ChatGPT, and someone later found Samsung's proprietary code inside ChatGPT because it used it for training data, right? So if you are sensitive to that stuff, you can't have that, or you work like big company, right? This stuff has to be private, or you're working for clients and they have really strict NDAs, right? It's kind of imagine if you sign this like non-disclosure agreement with this client, you ChatGPT to help you with some work for the client, all of a sudden that's out there, right? And at least right now there's like, not that I know, there's no like tool that you could like after it has your data to like, take it back, right? As a website, you could say, hey, ChatGPT, don't go, don't visit my website. Pinterest said like, hey, listen, like don't use our pins, that's ours, right? But if they already have it, it's like, they already have it, right? So you don't want to be in like this like legal limbo there. But you can be proactive. You go there, writing settings, and you say, hey, don't train my data, right? Don't use my data for training. Don't do it. On the maybe the other side of the spectrum, if ChatGPT has some sort of has some conditions where you can't use it for certain niches, right? And they say, hey, and it like refuses like to answer that. Hey, we can't write about this, right? There are others out there, and also there's ones like Llama, for example, and that's pioneered a lot by Facebook, and you can actually run this on your local drive, and you keep all the data, and you can ask it whatever you want. And also Grok by Twitter is pretty solid, and that's also like, it's a lot more liberal than say ChatGPT. If you're writing about something that just ChatGPT doesn't, doesn't want to cooperate with. Okay, generative AI search for content creation. First off, if I had that slide up a few years ago, it would be like at like a black hat SEO forum, right? It'd be like you can't, this is illegal, and we all know this, but here's ways that I've been able to trick Google, and Google hasn't found out yet, so here, do it too, and I'm going to make 1 million websites and make millions of dollars, right? And that was like the context of putting the words of Google, content, and AI together. It was black hat, it was illegal, it was taboo, you don't do it. And then Google one day they changed their mind, right? They fully flipped. And it's really like this like small nuanced way that they went from what Google looks for. Before it said helpful content written by people for people, right? It's like the Gettysburg Address is very succinct, for people by people, right? And that's been its like rule like since its inception, right? And then all of a sudden it took out the by people. It was just helpful content created for people in search, right? No more by people, app. Okay. Then later they got a little like, it's okay-ish, right? Because all of a sudden people jumped on that and they manipulated it and they made millions and millions of this like AI-driven content, and no one knows if it's accurate, where this even come from, and like, kind of saw that coming, right? And then Google said, listen, like, yeah, you could do it, but make sure you're actually checking it and make sure you're not using it for spam. So like, you're kind of like back to tiptoeing this like fine line of like, listen, like, yeah, I did this for the users, not for search, but I am, writing content to also be on search. So, how do I do it for the users, but not for search, but it's actually for search? So, all of a sudden it's back to, if you think you go to ChatGPT and just like, Gemini or anything, nowadays, Copilot, and just like, make like 1,000 articles, put them in your website and rank for 1,000 keywords, that's not going to happen. And pretty recent in March, there was this update that a lot of people that did manipulate, Google use AI to write thousands and thousands of pages. They just came totally off of Google. So, they had to run for a few months, probably longer than they should have, maybe like around a year actually. And you could, I remember watching these YouTube videos of this guy saying, look, I made like thousands of pages and ranking hundreds of pages. And I'm like, man, like, all these people are listening to this person and he's saying the wrong thing. And it's a very short-term mindset that he's doing. And lo and behold, there was an update and that all came out. Okay, ChatGPT, the way you should think about it is the start, not the end. Okay, and here's some just like how other people use ChatGPT, right? They use it for that initial research, for inspiration, for the rough draft. They don't use it for the whole thing, right? Most people, number one usage is for ideas and inspiration. That's what it should be used for, much more than it should be like seen as like the final end. It is the start, not the end. Okay, this is the way I like to use it. You can have it write the initial draft, right? But make sure if you're using it for content, make sure to provide plenty of instructions, plenty of samples, give it demographic information, everything you need. Number two is rewrite, have a human actually read it, rewrite it, do fact checking, make sure you didn't hallucinate things, right? And then you could re-put it back to, after you've checked, you could re-put it back to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, not for nothing, is a really good editor. Okay, like he knows grammar really, really well. So if you need that, right? If you're like, instead of checking your own grammar, you could go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, listen, don't rewrite this, just check it for grammar, just fix the grammar mistakes, and I'll do that. Make AI sound more human. Here's some good ones. Styles, authors, audience, right? You could say, hey, I wanted to, write it in a persuasive manner, right? Make it very formal, make it informal. Fiction, fantasy, you could give it all these prompts. Persuasive, journalistic. You could give it authors, right? Like Emily Dickinson. Or Ernest Hemingway is known for writing very just clear and concise sentences. So you could say, write it in a Hemingway style of writing. It would be very clear, it would be very concise, right? And again, always give audience, right? Like, here is who I am writing for. Did they know about my product? They don't know about my product. They're very well versed in it. You could be technical, don't be technical. Who are you actually writing for? And you could even, I don't have here, but you could even do like different companies and stuff. You could say, write like Apple style of writing, right? And again, it would be like clear, concise. It'd be like advertising copy. And whenever possible, always provide examples. That's really the best one. And especially if like, you're trying to replace yourself and like say like you're writing a blog and you're saying like, oh, can ChatGPT kind of like help me write this? You could literally just give it all your blog posts. But listen, here is my style of writing. Here, take it all in and write like me, right? Or if you do speeches and you record yourself, right? You could take that transcript of your recording, give it to ChatGPT and say, hey, this is my knowledge now. Anything that I ask you to write, see if you could take from what I've said before. Take my viewpoint, take my stance, write like how I speak. So give it all of that, let it work. AI can reply to reviews. Yeah, this is a small point, but there may be a reason why I put it here. Sometimes I see reviews written by ChatGPT, and they're so obvious. You read this and this is fake reviews, and if I know it's fake, Google knows it's fake, right? But what you could use it for is actually replying to reviews. So if you run a small business, right? If you have a service, something that people review, and you go online and you should reply to these reviews. I have a client that they're really bad at replying to reviews, right? And maybe if you've read enough reviews, sometimes you see that, right? It's like, man, the owner of this business is just just reading the replies, you're like, oh, like I don't want to deal with this business. Not even because of the review, but because of the reply, right? They're defensive. They say, hey, the customer was wrong, and here's why you're wrong. They're saying fake stuff that didn't happen. And I had a client that would want to do that and was like, please don't please don't reply to the reviews. Whenever you get a bad review, we will help you write it, and we help them write it. But then when ChatGPT came out, I'm like, listen, we've been replaced. ChatGPT did a really good job of replying to reviews, and again, you could give them information. You could say, listen, this customer was wrong, or actually it was a very busy time, and they were told beforehand. And then ChatGPT will take that information, and they'll make it sound nice and professional and not defensive. Okay, cool. Generative AI and search for images and video. Image creation, like specific. So This is now DALL-E. This was one iteration before DALL-E. There's a newer one. DALL-E is a product from OpenAI, just like ChatGPT. There are other image creation AIs out there. Midjourney is a really good one I've played around with also. With Midjourney, you have to go through Discord. I think the UX is a little bit harder to work with. DALL-E is now embedded inside ChatGPT. You have to get ChatGPT 4 though, you have to pay for it. There's others out there, but there's similar, and yeah, they're somewhat similar. Okay, so here I go, create a Valentine's Day graphic, this DALL-E, and it was, yeah, it gave me this, like, these aren't words, right? I don't know what it gave, and I even said, for those who could, read it, and like I said, like, create me a Valentine's Day graphic for smart sites or a digital marketing agency, right? And I mean, it was complete crap, right? Absolutely not usable, right? Here I used a ChatGPT with Canva, and I even provided the logo. I said, here's the Smart Sites logo, and you somehow incorporate the logo and make me a graphic for Valentine's Day, and it totally ignored most of the things that I asked, and I, got the text a little bit better, but still, it's not usable at all. Okay, next I went, here I went with specifics, create a brain, a heart, and a light bulb, okay? And now it looks like this, and now I can use it, right? So you have to give it specifics, and it does a really good job. And again, by specifics, not like creating a social media graphic, you have to give it, hey, what exactly do you want in this graphic? And from what I said earlier, you could have that two-way conversation, right? You could go and say, hey, give me some ideas for a social media graphic for Valentine's Day for a smart site. All of a sudden, it'll give you those ideas. You can copy paste that right. Say, hey, brilliant idea. Make me an image for that. I did that also. I don't have those examples, but for St. Patrick's Day, I also played around with it. And at one point, I was like, a leprechaun, and there's a treasure chest, and you open up the treasure chest, and it's full of light bulbs. And they did like a really, really awesome job with it. So. But you have to give it those specifics when it comes to images. Here I was playing around with ChatGPT versus Gemini. Gemini recently released an upgrade. It's a little bit better, but this is a little bit one version before the latest Gemini, but still not great. So I took that graphic it created and I said, hey, can you make me social media posts for it, and also make it funny. Let me see if I could read some of this. So. They both went with like the same puns. Okay, so this is Gemini. Roses are red, violets are blue. Some marketing campaigns make you say boo. So like, okay, that's not Valentine's Day. That's Halloween. Okay, and then ChatGPT 4, same metaphor. Roses are red, violets are blue. If your website's on page 2, users might forget you. Right? It did better. So, there's some good ones from back and forth, but ChatGPT 4, yeah, at least from this example, and then Gemini released a new version that there's lots of buzz about, it's so much better, I used it, it's not so much better. ChatGPT 4, I think, still, for me, is the gold standard, although it's funny how similar they are. Gemini totally copied ChatGPT 4, and it's like UX, it practically looks like the same thing. I mean, Microsoft copied Google when it comes to search, and then and everything about it. Google made Google AdWords, Google AdSense. Microsoft came out with the same thing. So a lot of times Google was first, and then Microsoft was the copycat. Here it's kind of reversed. Google seems to be playing catch up here, although they were originals in the AI game. Not so much anymore. Okay. Easiest way to be original. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Question. Thank you.
I'm curious because both AIs provide different replies per platform.
Yes.
Okay, but is that because they understand the language of Instagram, of Twitter, and they adapt the reply to that language?
Yeah, I mean, if you read it, Pinterest, pin your. Oh, repeat. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Nice. So the question is, it was very curious that that both the platforms wrote responses to the major social media platforms. Like, how did it know to? And I don't think the screenshot doesn't reply my original question, but I did not tell it to write something for Twitter and Facebook, etc. But yet both platforms did. And the question was, did they actually vary their language specific to the platform? Maybe that's why. And they did. If you look at Pinterest, And, the first words are pin your heart out this Valentine's Day, right? That's a pun that only works for Pinterest. On Twitter, it's shorter, right? Twitter, well, although you can write longer, it's still, most people like that shorter content on Twitter. The Twitter one is shorter. Yeah, I think there's something to it. That's great comment questions. And is there any others? Please feel free to interrupt me. I love it. Let it be a two-way conversation. We just spoke about. All right, easiest way to be original with generative AI is to start with original. So these are my kids, 2/3 of my kids, and I asked it to tailor my kids into Barbies, right? And I don't think anyone else, and I hid my data, okay? So no one else will have Barbies that look like this because they are my kids, right? So if you want to be original, you want to be authentic, you want to be genuine, right? That's like major problem right now for social media for generative AI is hey, it's not everyone's going to have exactly what I have, but if you're starting with original and you're just having generative AI like upgrade it, right? You are going to still be original. Okay, here's some image styles. All right. And by the way, all these little Pixar style images that you've seen throughout the presentation, it was obviously AI based. I did not draw these or pay a graphic designer for months and months to make them. Pixar, cyberpunk, hippie, retro vintage, scary, realistic, Salvador Dali, crayon. Again, you could go with like the medium of art. You could go with an artist. You could go with a style. Pixar is literally a company, right? You could say Pixar style. That's Pixar style. Hippie, so you could really play around with this. Scary, friendly, you could do things like that as well. Here's ones I've had fun with. Okay, cool. Video plus AI. So my experience, I don't have great experience with it. I keep seeing on social media, on Twitter, etc., these like amazing videos that were generated from AI, and they're mostly using these like closed betas that I don't have access to. So while they look very impressive, I have not been able to actually use any impressive video AI stuff. Again, this is the OpenAI one. From what I've seen, it looks awesome. But then again, it's easy to cherry pick one good demo example and show it off. It's a whole other to actually have it be used and actually be good. So yeah, right now as of today, I don't have any good use cases for video and AI. There's one at another conference someone talked about. They used I forget exactly what it was, but it was one of those AI tools where he recorded himself and it turned himself into this little avatar person. And then instead of posting himself on social media, he posted this little avatar cartoon of himself, while he's talking. And while it looked good, he made a big note that actually the engagement was worse, right? Like people would rather see his face than this cartoon version of his face. So, I remember it was a company, they have tens of millions of dollars in investment, to actually make the product, only to find out oh, no one actually wants to, people rather see a face than a cartoon version,
I know what it's used for, writing the script so you can do the video.
Writing scripts, yes, of course, and here's one also I have here. It's Opus Clip. You create short form videos from a long video. So for example, right now I'm recording myself, right? But instead of posting this 1 hour long recording of myself, I could, I'll post it's 30-second snippet of it, right? And instead of having a video editor watch a whole 1 hour and try to pick out the best little moments, Opus Clip is pretty good. Okay, I'll say, if you actually had a video editor, watch this recording for an hour and pick out the best snippets, that video person will probably do a better job than Opus Clip did automatically. But not for nothing, it did a pretty decent job, and it suggests clips are 10 to 15 seconds long. It does a good job of formatting it, sizing it, and also giving you these captions. So yeah, it's video enhancements. It's good for, but not necessarily more right now. And here this will change. Okay, changing gears a little bit. Generative AI and search for SEO analysis and links. AI cannot solve multifaceted problems when it comes to technical SEO. You can't go and say, here's my website, make it faster, right? I tried it, so just give me a blog post of things that for me to look at. But that's not really what I want. You can't say hey, improve the user experience, right? Improve my conversion rates on this website, improve my time on page and stuff like that. Decrease my bounce rates. It can't do increase the conversion rates. It can't do that, right? So it is good for little pieces of problems, right? Hey, my slider, the website's slow, it's because the slider loads all 10 images as soon as you load the website instead of loading an image at a time when you actually need to load it, right? And you could give it this code, and then it could actually help you rewrite the code a little bit, but you really have to kind of get specific when it comes to these things. A lot of times, not for nothing, it's like, and I think it's like a rule across the board. It's like, AI doesn't replace developers, but AI developers will replace developers not using AI. But you really do still need to, at least right now, understand the technology. A lot of times, I ask you to write code, and sometimes I read it and I'm like, this is the worst, most inefficient way that you could write this, right? And sometimes it's absolutely brilliant, right? But you still kind of need that extra element of like, did it actually, do it correctly? Okay, cool. Some stuff it can't do, for example, it can't, crawl the web, right? Although right now it can actually visit the web, before it couldn't, but you still can't say like, hey, go to every page on my website and see if I'm missing any like heading tags, right? Just say it's above its capacity. But you could have it write you a script to do that, right? Another big fan of Google, in the Google workspace, right? But Microsoft has all these similar products, so whichever medium you use, ChatGPT can help you with it. In this case, again, I'm a big Google fan, Google Apps Script, stuff like that. So I go and I say, hey, can you write me a Google Apps Script that crawls every page on my website and checks if there is a heading, right? And tells me if I'm missing any headings, any title tags, etc. And it could do that, and then you can write this, run the script, and then it'll do the work. So even if ChatGPT can't do something, you could still kind of say, hey, maybe ChatGPT can write me a program to help me do this thing. Okay. When it comes to link building, a big facet of SEO, ChatGPT doesn't do a great job. Okay, so it's not like, although it is very a generalistic program, it really doesn't do so great in some things. So you could go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I have this website, I have this business, what website should I get links from, where it should be included. So at a very basic level, it'll help, but if you're anything semi-competitive, really tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs just are much more powerful when it comes to SEO analysis, when it comes to link building. This is my favorite tool, by the way, Ahrefs. And if you do link building, there's one tool you use. This is really the only tool you need to use. And what you do is you put in your website, and then you put in your competitor's website, right? So you could go to Google, type the keyword that you actually want to rank for, take those top 10, the first page top 10 results, and put it into this tool, put in your website, and it'll give you a list of all the links that these guys have that you don't. And it'll start with like the most intersected. So like, hey, out of the 10 websites, you listed 8 of them are on Yelp or on BBB or whatever, on Trustpilot, and you're not. Right, and here's some other site that 7 of them are on and you're not. And you go through this, and if you do just that, I mean, in most cases it's enough actually. Okay, generative AI and search for pay-per-click. Okay, I'll go fast on this because it's one of those things, it's a good generalist tool, but it's not like, it's good for initial ideas, inspiration, but specific tools like SEMrush is better. So again, initial consideration, ideation is good for. And here, just for example purposes, I did a construction home service company, and here's my prompt: what Google Ads campaign should a construction company run? This, again, very generalistic, but it's good, right? Search, display, run remarketing, video, local service ads. That's pretty much the channels you should do, right? Give me a list of buyer intent keywords for home services, not just keywords, buyer intent ones. Emergency plumber near me, right? Roof replacement quotes. Again, pretty good, not in this like expert way, but just for like ideation, these are exactly what you should target. We used to have a quiz, we don't give it anymore, this quiz, but for candidates, they're applying for a job for PPC analyst, we used to ask questions like this, ChatGPT, gives a better answer than, at least 90% of our candidates, and now we don't even use it anymore because they could just go to ChatGPT and get an answer. Ad groups, they could tell it, again, you could build upon itself, you could, after you see the keywords, you could ask it to organize the keywords into ad groups, and do that. Ad copy ideas, create 5 performance marketing ad copy ideas based on copy from hunterdouglas.com, which is, they do blinds. So if you give it a brand, right, a competing brand or whatnot, and you could ask it to write ad copy, again, it's pretty good. Better yet, again, it's really good at spreadsheets. So if you're running a PPC campaign, you could literally feed it into, hey, here's all my ad, here's my ad copy report, where you got, ad copy, the click rate, conversion rate, all these, all these metrics straight from Google Ads or wherever, and then you feed into it and say, hey, can you suggest me ad copy ideas based on the best performing ad copy from my, from my sheet, from my file, and it'll do that. SHB testing, that's, again, find what already works for you, and you could say, hey, this works, write me variations based on what works, right, and it will rewrite you these variations. You run these 5 variations, and then you can say, okay, variation 3 is actually better than my original. You take some out, keep that one in, and you could iterate that way. And automation, yeah, again, I said it earlier on, if you're just chatting with ChatGPT, it's very basic, the value add is pretty low. If you're giving data, if you're giving spreadsheets, you're kind of like, next level. And if you're actually having it help you write code, that's really like you're using it to the maximum level. Write me a Google Ads script that lists all landing pages on a Google Sheet and checks the status code of them. This was a real use case where we run PPC campaigns, millions of dollars of PPC campaigns, and sometimes the landing pages go down, right? And all of a sudden, you're running, it's your client's money, but like you're responsible for, thousands of dollars are being put into a campaign, the landing page is down. Google tells you, but not always. If it's like a 404 message, like it's totally down, it'll tell you. But if something like authorization error or something, actually Google doesn't tell you, right? And again, it's like we've been caught with our pants down. It's like, hey guys, like paying you to run the campaign, how could you be running it something that doesn't work? Like, so we, just for that like extra step of like a QA, we actually had it write us a piece of code. It goes straight to our Google Ads. It takes out all the landing pages, checks each one each day, right? And it gives instructions. Here's how to make sure to run this script every single day. And then the ones that actually come out bad, we know, and we're able to fix this, stop wasting the marketing dollars. Okay, closing thoughts, and then hopefully there are questions. Hopefully I have time for questions. Oh, there are a couple questions. Okay, cool. Let me finish up, and I'll take all the questions. If you have some more questions, put it in the chat, because I am finished in a couple of minutes, and we'll do questions for the rest. Okay, AI today is like the internet boom, in 1995. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? There's a lot of companies out there. They're getting a lot of buzz. They're getting a lot of money. They're getting a lot of attention. Right, most are getting more money and more attention than they ever deserve, right? Most of these aren't going to close down. Most of them you look and they're silly. There's some that like became obsolete after like a ChatGPT iteration. There's one that like it was like AI, but you could use it for like PDFs, and then all of a sudden ChatGPT came out with like PDF support, and all of a sudden, okay, well there goes like a few million of investor dollars, right? So there's so many out there, but be a little bit wary, especially it's one of those things that are like you're really embedding in your systems, right? And then all of a sudden they're going to stop being supported, and you have to like change all your systems. So there's so much out there, but not all of them are going to survive. GPT is pretty cool, a very smart thing for ChatGPT to do. It kind of look and say, listen, like the smartest, biggest companies out there right now, these systems, they make them open. Right, it's like Apple's successful. They have their Apple Store. Android has a Play Store. They realize that if you want to make sure that your company's the most innovative, has the best products, you can't rely on just hiring the best talent and the best 100 developers, and they're going to always have the best, most amazing ideas in the world. They're not, right? You got to open it up and have other people use your infrastructure, and that's what OpenAI did, and they created my GPTs. It's very easy to create a GPT, and all of a sudden now ChatGPT is a generalist, and they're going to have little specialist GPTs. I think it's a brilliant move by them that they made very early, very smart. Okay, should you implement or resist artificial intelligence? Is my last point. Right, the metaphor I use here is like if you're a farmer, right, and on like and then all of a sudden farmers get like a tractor, right? And farmers are scared because like, oh my God, like my job is gonna be obsolete because this tractor is gonna do all the farming. Like yes, the tractor definitely helps you with the farming, but it's not gonna replace you, it's just gonna make it better for you, right? You could plant more seeds, you could be more consistent, you'll have more output, right? And then you could actually hang out a little bit and not always, plow your field for so long, right? But guess what, tractors did replace farmers that didn't use tractors. Right, it's one of those things. AI is going to replace, AI is going to replace lawyers. AI is going to lawyers using AI are gonna replace lawyers not using AI, right? So whatever, you do, see how you could actually embed AI into what you do. And I think it's gonna, it's a big force for good, much more than it is for maybe some of the job loss that will result in it inevitably. Okay, that's it for me, thank you guys. Let's make questions from here, questions from there, yes, please
I
go
have a
ahead.
question. So for generative uses, like when you're trying to create something mostly from scratch, how can you make sure that you're using a tool or that the tool is using sources that have ethically consented for their pictures or content to be used as a source? Because I remember hearing a lot of stuff about artists having their artwork stolen without their consent or knowledge and fed to training models for a lot of generative AI learning models and things like that. So how can you reconcile that with the desire to use this in an ethical way?
Great question, and I'll repeat a little bit, but it probably got picked up, but just in case it didn't, I'll just summarize it quick. And the question was about ethics with generative AI. When you're asking it to produce something for you, how do you know that the sources that you use in the production was ethically sourced and didn't actually steal information from somewhere to make that for you? And you can't. I don't have a good answer for it. And I think we'll find out through the court system, because a lot of these cases are going to court. So all of this is going to be played out in court of law, and then there's going to be precedent, and then there's going to be case law for it. And that is a huge thing. And right now, I mean, I really hope there's a lot of siding with the actual creators, because there's so much it uses that just steals, and then all of a sudden it's like, the incentive to actually originally create becomes so little if you could just steal it so easily without getting any credit. That I hope that through the court of law somehow there is a system that gets created to make it fair, because right now it's not great. And there is no good way for me to tell ChatGPT and say, hey, the image you make for me, make sure you only use it where you got permission. There is no.
Is there any methods or any prompt styles that you would advise avoiding in order to kind of mitigate that? Like I don't know, editing versus generating or something like that. What would you recommend?
Yeah, a little bit. To your point. So, right. Yeah, if you have it, edit your own things. Repeat the question. So, the question was, if in the prompt that you give it, can you be prompted in such a way that it mitigates the things it steals, right? And probably. So, things like editing, right? It's probably safer. All of a sudden, it's checking for grammar, it stole the grammar rules from, the Oxford Dictionary. I don't know, that's, more ethical than, hey, create me an image that's just like the Pixar does. You could be clever in that, but there is no for sure way to make sure that, and even there isn't even and just how complex it is, and the backings of it. There's not even oh, here's the 200 things to learn from to create this image. There is no paper trail like that. So which will make it very hard to mitigate. And a lot of that could hopefully hopefully there will be some industry standards. There'll be some laws around it. There has to be, I think. Great questions.
You got a couple.
Yes.
Do you wanna?
We'll do there, and then we'll do.
Do you wanna? Well, first of all, you got a funny comment by the guy that's found the fully autonomous tractor. So he's saying he's replacing the farmer, but I guess the farmer's still got to buy it, and so it's
Yes.
not. And this was a bit long. Do you want to read this out so you can answer it?
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go read it.
But I haven't got a mic.
I will. What? I don't have. Okay. Well, the mic is. Alright, sorry to be long here. I'm a heavy user of ChatGPT 4+. I have put lots of efforts into custom instructions, including a verbosity level. Can you explain specifically how we Joomla end users prohibit OpenAI from crawling our websites to train their models? I know there's something you can toggle off in settings, but then you no longer see your history. That's true of your custom instructions. It is laborious to report a spreadsheet every single set of specific instructions, then copy and paste constantly. I don't have a good answer to that, but I'll go here, because I think this is where it picks up my recording. So the question was, if you toggle that privacy setting that I showed earlier, you actually then can't go back to your ChatGPT sessions, which is really like, almost, ChatGPT probably did it on purpose, in a very, maybe unethical way. So, when you press to hide your data, at the same time, it also does not allow you to actually store history and come back to your ChatGPT windows. And there, I don't have a solution for it that is the problem. It is true. If you press to hide your data, you also no longer have the ability to come back to your sessions, and that's just a matter of fact. Please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I'm curious about the future of AI, and I want to ask you if you think in the future the search results will be from Google will be substituted by the ChatGPT, and how can that affect the SEO and the web?
Great question. So the question here was about the generative search experience. That all of a sudden Google, instead of pointing people to a website that has the answers, it is now answering the answers for you. And it was in beta, and now it's actually coming out. And a lot of SEO people are actually very scared of it, right? All of a sudden, and it has a big impact. I think ultimately, the way I see it, it'll have a less impact than people think. And I'll say it this way also. So, the way Google, for example, if you wanted to look at flights and prices, right, you went to Google, and Google pointed you to Kayak or Expedia. Then you use Kayak and Expedia to compare flights, right? Does Kayak thing still exist? I don't know, right? I just go to Google Flights, right? So many things, it took those away. If you do math, before you used to point you to math website, now it gives you the math answer, right? And so many verticals that said, hey, why, instead of pointing someone to a different website, I, as in Google, could actually give you that answer. So to me, generative search experience, where it uses generative AI to give you the answer directly, it's not this like, oh my God, exponential difference in Google. It's just yet another, it's just incrementally one more thing that Google says, listen, I'm going to give you the answer without pointing you elsewhere to it. So I think it is an incremental difference, not a radical difference. With that said, just like Google Flights and all this stuff, killed Kayak probably, really hurt it. This will hurt a lot of websites. It's true, right? Especially if you're like, I don't know, if you're in affiliate marketing and all of a sudden like you're reviewing things and saying here's this top 5 software for yada yada, and Google now says, listen, I'm just going to give that answer without pointing to your affiliate blog post. Your affiliate blog post will get worse. So I think it will hurt publishers. It will hurt white affiliate sites. It will not hurt services. It will not hurt like small businesses, products, right? So if you're providing a service or business, or doing an SEO for a business providing a service or a product, in the end, the user still wants that product and wants the service. Google's not going to go into the business of manufacturing sneakers. It might just tell you some answer about sneakers and point you to where to buy the sneakers faster. But depending on your type of site, I think there will be some impact. Yeah. Great question. Yes?
Do you think the quality of content out there has got better or worse since AI?
Yeah. The question, if you can hear it, has the quality of content, the quality of Google search results got better or worse since AI? Yeah, it's been pretty crappy. Yeah, I think Google has not done a great short-term job of dealing with AI, but I think it is, Google will figure it out. It'll take a little while. I mean, this always happens, right? There's some like radical thing, or someone, they realize, oh, I could spam Google, manipulate Google, and for a while you're like, oh my God, I can't use Google. Why is Google pointing me to like these wrong things? Why do I see Reddit absolutely everywhere now? So too much Reddit. Like, slow down the Reddit, Google. So yeah, Google will change and will adapt to it. I'm sure it will. But yes, especially anecdotally, I am not happy with I think it went the wrong direction for a little bit. Yeah.
think, that's enough.
Right, fine. All right.
Everybody, I think it was a great talk.
Thank you guys.